If you feel like something is breaking in your life right now, don't ignore it. Because when you finally put God first, everything that was holding you back starts to break. Something is shifting in your life right now, and you can feel it. Not on the surface where everything still looks the same, but deeper, where your thoughts don't sit the way they used to, where your spirit feels restless, where the things that once satisfied you suddenly feel empty. It's like something is being pulled apart inside of you. The pressure has been building. Situations have become heavier. Some relationships don't feel right anymore. Old habits don't bring the same comfort. And part of you is wondering, why does it feel like everything is starting to break at the same time? But listen carefully. This is not random. This is not you losing control. And this is not your life falling apart. This is what happens when you begin, whether you realize it or not, to put God first. Because the moment God takes his rightful place in your life, everything that was built outside of him can no longer stay the same. The chains you've carried quietly, the ones you learned to live with, the ones you stopped questioning, they begin to weaken, not always in ways you expect. Sometimes it feels like confusion. Sometimes it feels like loss. Sometimes it feels like everything is being shaken at once. But what's really happening is this: God is breaking what was holding you, breaking the patterns that kept you stuck, breaking the lies that shaped how you see yourself, breaking the attachments that pulled you away from who you were created to be. And the reason it feels intense is because those chains were never meant to come off easily. They were wrapped around your thinking, your decisions, your identity. So when they start to break, you feel it everywhere. But don't mistake the breaking for destruction. This is not the end of something good. This is the end of what was quietly limiting your life. And if you stay in this moment, if you don't run back to what's comfortable, if you don't try to rebuild what God is tearing down, you're going to see something powerful happen. Because when you truly put God first, chains don't just loosen, they break. Number 1. The moment you choose God over everything else. There comes a point in your life when the decision is no longer casual. It's no longer about saying you believe or turning to God only when things go wrong. It becomes something deeper, a moment where you stop negotiating with your own life, where you stop trying to hold on to everything while giving God only a part of you. Because the truth is, as long as God is not first, something else will take his place. Your fears, your desires, your comfort, your past, and whatever sits in that place will always have control over you. That's where the chains begin. Not because you wanted to be trapped, but because you allowed something else to lead. But then something shifts. You get tired of the cycle, tired of repeating the same patterns, tired of feeling stuck in ways you can't explain. And in that moment, you make a different decision. You choose God. Not partially, not emotionally, but fully. You stop asking, what do I want right now? And you begin asking, what does God want from my life? And that's where everything begins to change. Because the moment you truly put God first, your life comes into alignment with something higher. And alignment always brings exposure. Things that don't belong start to reveal themselves. Choices that once felt normal now feel wrong. Paths that once seemed right now feel empty, and it can feel uncomfortable because you're not just changing direction, you're changing authority. You're no longer led by what you feel, you're led by what is true. And that shift breaks something. It breaks the control that your old life had over you. It breaks the influence of things that once defined you. It breaks the hold of patterns that kept repeating, not because you forced it, but because you changed who sits first in your life. And when God becomes first, everything else must fall into its proper place, or it begins to fall apart. Number 2. Why chains exist in the first place. Chains don't always look like chains. They don't always come in obvious forms. Most of the time, they feel normal. They feel like habits you've had for years, thoughts you've accepted as truth, reactions that seem automatic. But underneath all of it, there is something holding you, something shaping your decisions without you even realizing it. Chains are built slowly, one compromise at a time, one lie at a time, one moment of fear that you chose chose to believe. And over time, those small moments become patterns. Patterns become strongholds. And strongholds become identity. You start to believe, this is just who I am. I've always been this way. I can't change this. This is just my life. But that's not truth. That's a chain speaking, because anything that limits who God created you to be did not come from Him. Fear that stops you from moving forward. Guilt that keeps you stuck in your past. Addictions that pull you back every time you try to change. These are not random struggles. They are spiritual chains, and they exist for one purpose: to keep you from becoming who God is calling you to be. The enemy doesn't need to destroy you. If he can keep you bound, if he can keep you distracted, comfortable, numb, he can keep you from ever stepping into your purpose. And the most dangerous chains are the ones you don't question, the ones you've learned to live with, the ones that feel familiar, because you don't fight what you think is normal. But the moment you put God first, light enters places you've never looked at before, and suddenly you begin to see clearly. You begin to recognize what has been holding you. You begin to feel resistance in areas you once ignored, and that's where the process begins. Because before a chain can break, it has to be revealed. Number 3. What happens in the spirit when you put God first. The moment you truly put God first, something shifts that you cannot see with your eyes. It doesn't always show up immediately in your circumstances. Your surroundings may still look the same. Your routine may not change overnight, but in the spirit, everything begins to realign. Because when you choose God above everything else, you step into agreement with Him. An agreement carries power. You are no longer moving in your own direction. You are no longer led by your emotions or your past. You are stepping into alignment with truth. And when that happens, what is out of alignment begins to shake. Things that once flowed easily in the wrong direction start to feel blocked. Doors that once opened without resistance begin to close, not because God is holding you back, but because He is redirecting you. He is removing what no longer fits the direction He is leading you toward. At the same time, something else begins to happen inside of you. Your awareness increases. You start to sense things differently. Discern things you once ignored. Feel conviction where you once felt nothing. This is not pressure to destroy you. This is clarity to guide you. Because the closer you move toward God, the less comfortable you become with anything that pulls you away from Him. And that's where the breaking intensifies. Because now, you're not just living differently, you're seeing differently. And once you see clearly, you cannot go back to being blind. That's why the process feels so deep. Because God is not just changing your life on the outside, He is transforming you from within. Number 4. Why the breaking feels painful at first. If breaking chains were easy, you would have been free a long time ago. But the truth is, what holds you has been connected to you for a long time. Some chains are tied to your habits. Some are tied to your identity. Some are tied to people you've known for years. So when God begins to break those chains, it doesn't always feel like relief at first. Sometimes it feels like loss. Things you once depended on start to disappear. People you felt connected to begin to distance. Environments that once felt familiar no longer feel right. And in those moments, it's easy to think something is wrong. It's easy to feel like you're being pulled apart without understanding why. But what you're experiencing is not destruction, it's separation. God is separating you from what cannot go with you into the life He has prepared. And separation is never comfortable, because even unhealthy attachments can feel familiar. Even wrong environments can feel safe. But God is not trying to keep you comfortable. He is trying to set you free. And freedom requires breaking. Breaking the emotional ties that kept you connected to the wrong things. Breaking the patterns that kept pulling you backward. Breaking the version of yourself that was built on survival instead of purpose. And yes, it hurts, because growth always stretches you beyond what feels normal. But don't let the pain confuse you. Pain does not always mean something is wrong. Sometimes it means something is being removed that was never meant to stay. And if you can stay in that process, if you don't run back to what feels familiar, you will begin to see it clearly. What felt like loss was actually release. What felt like breaking was actually freedom beginning. Number 5. The enemy's reaction when chains start breaking. The moment chains begin to break in your life, the enemy doesn't stay silent, because breaking chains means losing control, and the enemy only has influence. Where there is agreement, where there is fear, where there are patterns he can use against you. So when you put God first, and those patterns start to break, he reacts, not always in obvious ways. Sometimes it comes as distraction, sudden busyness, thoughts that pull you away from focus. Other times, it comes as doubt. Questions begin to rise in your mind. Is this really worth it? Am I doing the right thing? Why does this feel harder now? And if that's not enough, pressure increases. Situations feel heavier. Temptations feel stronger. Old habits try to pull you back in. But you need to understand this clearly. This is not a sign that you're going backward. This is a sign that something is breaking. Because the enemy does not fight what already belongs to him. He fights what he is losing. And right now, he is losing his hold on you. That's why the resistance feels stronger. That's why the battle feels more intense. Because you are no longer standing still. You are moving, and movement always creates resistance. But here's what changes everything. You don't fight this battle the same way anymore. You don't rely on your own strength. You don't react out of fear. You don't fall back into old patterns. You stand. You stay aligned. You stay rooted in God. And the more you do that, the weaker those attacks become. Because what once had power over you no longer has the same access. And eventually, what tried to hold you loses its grip completely. Number 6. The power of obedience and daily alignment. Freedom is not just a moment, it's a lifestyle. Because even after chains begin to break, you still have to choose every day who you will follow. Putting God first is not a one-time decision. It's a daily alignment, a daily choice to listen, to trust, to obey. And obedience is where your freedom grows stronger, not because it's easy, but because it keeps you connected to truth. There will be moments when God asks you to let go of something you still want to hold. Moments where he leads you in a direction that doesn't make immediate sense. Moments where obedience feels uncomfortable, even costly. But every time you choose to follow him, something strengthens inside of you. Your spirit becomes clearer, your discernment becomes sharper, your peace becomes deeper, and what used to control you continues to lose its influence, because obedience breaks agreement with your old life. It separates you from the patterns that once defined you, and it anchors you in something unshakable. This is how freedom becomes stable, not just something you experience once, but something you walk in consistently, day by day, decision by decision, and over time, you begin to realize something powerful. You're not fighting to stay free anymore. You're living from a place of freedom. Because when God is first, your life is no longer led by pressure, but by purpose. Number 7. When everything starts falling into place, there comes a moment, not all at once, but gradually, when you begin to notice something different. The chaos that once surrounded you no longer feels the same. The confusion that once controlled you starts to fade, and even though life is still moving, there is a new sense of clarity. Not because everything is perfect, but because everything is aligning. You begin to see things differently. What once felt urgent no longer has power over you. What once distracted you no longer pulls you in the same way, and what once seemed impossible now feels within reach. Because when you put God first, he doesn't just remove things, he replaces them with direction, with purpose, with the right connections. You begin to walk into moments that feel intentional, conversations that come at the right time, opportunities that match where you are now, doors that open without force, and you realize you're no longer trying to control everything. You're being led, and that changes everything. Because instead of chasing, you're receiving. Instead of forcing, you're flowing. Instead of questioning every step, you're trusting the direction. And this is where peace becomes real, not temporary, not dependent on circumstances, but steady, because your life is no longer built on what you can control. It's built on who is leading you. And when God leads, everything finds its place, not always how you imagined, but exactly how it needs to be. Conclusion: this is not the end, This is your freedom beginning. So if you feel like things are breaking in your life right now, don't be afraid, because this is what happens when you truly put God first. Things don't stay the same. They can't. Chains begin to fall. Old patterns lose their power. Attachments that once defined you start to disappear. And yes, it can feel intense. It can feel like everything is shifting at once. But what you're experiencing is not your life falling apart. It's your life being rebuilt on something real. God is not removing things to leave you empty. He is removing what was holding you, so you can finally step into freedom. So don't run back to what feels familiar. Don't try to rebuild what God is breaking. And don't doubt the process just because it feels uncomfortable. Because what's breaking right now was never meant to stay. And what God is doing in your life is only just beginning. So stay where you are. Stay aligned. Stay faithful. Because the moment you put God first, chains don't just loosen, they break. And once they break, you will never be the same again. Oh.